Over the past 8 months or so, I have been knee deep in these AI coding tools and frameworks, honestly, pretty much 7 days a week since they came out. And what I've learned in that time is a number of little tips and tricks that have really leveled up my AI coding workflows. And so what I'm going to do in this video is show you my tips and tricks, things like the IDE, how to set up your IDE, which LLMs to use, multiple chat interfaces, which AI coding frameworks that I use, and pretty much everything in between. So I'll give you all of the source and you will hopefully be able to 10 times your productivity and get real value out of this video for your AI coding workflows. Before I jump into that, if you're not familiar with who I am, long story short, my name is Adam. I started as a freelancer on Upwork 5 years ago. I taught myself to code and then I taught myself AI coding skills through Upwork, and I did over 60 projects, landed in their expert vetted program and did over $100,000 plus on the platform, which allowed me to then go ahead and build an AI development studio, which builds AI powered custom CRMs for businesses to replace their SaaS stack. As well as that, I obviously am very passionate about AI and AI coding, and so I create educational videos for YouTube and my AI Builders Hub community on exactly that and how to actually freelance and make money with these tools. But with all that out the way, let's jump into the top 5 tools that will hopefully level up your AI coding workflow significantly with very simple implementation. All right, so these are my top 5 tips. And to get started with tip number 1, I'm going to talk you through which LLM models that I'm using right now to be able to work really effectively in AI coding. So you'll see here I am using Cursor as the IDE, and what I do is I use Claude Code, usually 4.5, so not 4.5, to work through larger bodies of work. So I'll work on big tasks in Claude Code, and then I'll use Sonnet, which is Cursor's model, new Composer model, sorry. I'll use Composer from Cursor. And what this is it's a really, really fast model. So I'll use this a lot for quick user interface changes. So I'll use it right now. I'm going to create a new conversation using the Composer model here. You can switch to this model by just opening the drop down. And what I'll do is I want to, like, this description is pretty horrible, but what I want to do is I probably want to remove these color codes and just show them on hover. I think that works. So what I'll do is I'll use, first off, what I'll do is I'll pop the browser out and I will use this select element. I'm going to select these. So this is a list here. So I'm going to select these lists. And then what I'll do is I'm just going to record using Whisperflow. So I'm using Whisperflow for this video. If you also want to use Whisperflow, I've been using it for the past few weeks and it's awesome, helps me type a lot quicker. If you want to use it and you want to support the channel, the links to downloading Whisperflow and getting a free 2-week trial are in the description below. So feel free to click on that and I'll get some cutback, which is awesome if you choose to use it after the trial. But essentially it's really easy. You can just hold control and basically transcribe, and the transcription is actually really, really good. It gets when you're talking like lists and all those kind of things. So I'm just going to speak to it now. Can you please remove the list items associated with the income source chart and just show the chart? The hover is enough. So please remove the list items below it. I was trying to remember what the this is called, like the legend, I think, in some charts, something like that. So can you please remove the list items associated with the income source chart and just show the chart? So let's run that and look how quick. If you've used Claude a lot, you'll realize like how quickly this works. So I think, from memory, they said it was like, off some like about 4 times faster, but let's take a look. Cool. So, and that's just made that user interface change. So that was tip 1, which is using Claude Code. Now you can open Claude Code by just selecting on the tab, clicking this, opening a new Claude Code terminal, and you can start talking in here. So Claude Code for larger bodies of work, things like building pages, more complex tasks. So I have that open on the left here. I have the file tree. So file tree on the left, Claude Code. Then I have the browser, and then I have Cursor's chats, and I use the Composer model to make quick changes to user interfaces and tweak things pretty quickly. So that's tip 1. Now, tip number 2 is the browser. So prior to this, I would just have an incognito browser and I would go back and forth with the browser, and I would be doing things like opening the console and selecting elements and just manually copying that over, but that takes time. So what I do now is I just open the browser, in Cursor's IDE. And the way you do that is Command-Shift-B, and that opens the browser. Then you can run localhost 3000 right here in your browser. So the cool thing about this is you can view Chrome DevTools in here. So you can take a look at the console, you can look at errors, all those kind of things. And you can also really easily select elements. So if you want to make quick user interface changes, you can select these elements, copies across into Cursor's chat, and you can just directly refer to them to remove any hallucination of the AI thinking that you might be selecting a different element to what you're actually selecting. So this is really cool. That way, like, everything is all in one spot, really easy to work with. So it's just less touch points than having to manage a separate browser and having to, go back and forth between the two. Now, tip number 3, somewhat related to this, but if you are using browsers, maybe you don't want to, I don't know, for some reason you're using a different IDE or you can't open it in your browser. Tip number 3 is to use incognito browsers to run your local servers. And the reason for that is because you don't want any cookies or any cached items that are existing in your browser. You want that refreshed, so you want to use incognito windows where possible. That's just going to make sure that you don't actually have to deal with any of those issues that could happen from your existing browser. So use incognito browsers, close and hard refresh them whenever possible. To hard refresh, you do Command-Shift-R in Chrome. That's just going to make sure that your cookies and your cache are regularly cleared, because what can happen sometimes is you can be building, things can get kind of stuck in your cookies or your cache, and so you end up seeing things and you refresh in the browser and you can't seem to solve some issues. And often what happens is just a hard reset of your browser is going to solve those issues. So tip number 3, pretty manual one, but I've definitely gone down a couple of rabbit holes where I have spent a whole lot of time trying to debug an issue, which actually was just solved by hard refreshing the browser and opening a new incognito browser. Now, number 4, I talk about this a lot, is the BMAT framework. Now, this is a major AI coding tip. Probably should have been, step 1 or 2. But basically, if you're not familiar with what the BMAT framework is, I talk about that in a number of my other videos. But I genuinely think that this is the most comprehensive AI coding framework out there. It builds you really structured documentation and actually gives you like a solid and really good quality framework to build complex apps. It takes you through the entire planning workflow, and then it has a methodical, proper development approach to building apps. It takes you through the project management steps. It builds, it has a Scrum Master agent that builds stories and epics for you. So it breaks everything down into really nice bite-sized chunks, which allows your developer agents and your other coding agents to not get overwhelmed with a massive code base. And that's what allowed us to build an application this complex with multiple user roles, API integrations, all those kind of things, is really the BMAT framework is the underlying sticky glue that's holding all of this together. And it's built really, really quality documentation, change proposals, architecture documentation. You can look at all of these story files. Really, really good quality. If you want to learn more about it, check out some of my other videos where I go through that in more detail and exactly how it works. And last but not least is XRMCP. Now, if you're not sure what XRMCP is, what I'll do is I'll quickly open a branch and I'll show you exactly how it works. So again, I'm going to use Whisperflow. I'll probably just let's run the dev agent. Actually, we don't need to run an agent here. Can you please use XRMCP to take a look at the API structure for the Xero transaction type, please? Can you please return what the transaction data type structure looks like from Xero's API using XRMCP? Let's see what it does. So if you're not familiar with MCP servers, basically what they are is it's easy access, especially when using an AI, but it's essentially all of the APIs that a service typically exposes. A tool like Xra is used for web scraping, but there's all sorts of cool things they do. They do web sets. It's really good for basically extracting information, similar to tools like Perplexity, if you've used that. What the MCP is doing is it's allowing us to access those APIs that they expose to do things like search the web. But Xra specifically is really good for getting code examples. So you can see here it's querying Xero API transaction data type. And what it's going to do is it's going to try and find information that's available on the web about Xero, which is an accounting software, Xero's API, and what that looks like. Now, there's a number of competitors out there, like Brave MCP is one, and there's a number of searches that will do this. But actually, someone in the YouTube comments on one of my previous videos just dropped a comment saying, hey, look, you should try Exit MCP. And I want to thank that person because I've just seen better success with Exit MCP in comparison to Brave MCP and some of the other MCPs that I was using to do this exact same functionality before. So if you haven't got this, definitely integrate this into your AI coding workflow. It's really going to help you extract API docs. So whenever you're connecting to a third-party service, I always use a tool like Exit MCP to just search the web and get the latest up-to-date docs, because that's one of the most common touch points for hallucination by AI is incorrectly retaining or having incorrect knowledge. The LLM has incorrect knowledge about the API endpoints and how they're actually structured. So you can see here, these are the MCP executions. It's run those, and it's now returned the data type structure 40's transactions data type. So those are 5 quick tips that really level up my AI coding workflow and have been things that I've really started to integrate to just save me time and increase efficiency. If you found those 5 tips helpful and you want to learn more about AI coding or freelancing, there's plenty of other videos on this channel that talk about things like BMAD, AI coding, and everything in between. Or you can check out my AI Builders Hub, where we basically talk about that in detail. And yeah, I hope you found this video helpful, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.